Okay. The main thing, I'll pull up a couple of things that we're going to talk about, but the main thing was Catherine will say, great job, 9/11, blah, 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 yo, what's up? And Catherine and the money, it's all gone, going somewhere, do it again. Here we go. And I got a bunch of questions. I can just go through these real quick and then have you comment on each of these. Sure. And maybe we can get through that. There's probably, 24 things, but we can do it. All right, here we go.
It's time for Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock.
Believe me.
Wait, I got to start the recording in here.
It's time for Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock.
Believe me when I say we have a difficult time ahead of us. But if we are to be prepared for it, we must first shed our fear of it. I stand here without fear because I remember that I am here not because of the path that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here! Tonight, let us make them remember we are not afraid!
Not a fear, dear, and declare your independence with me, Ernest Hancock, from the BEA beautiful studios of Phoenix with an S, Phoenix.com, James Corbett. The CorbettReport.com. Now, he just finished his 9/11 whistleblower series and put them all into one whistleblower thing that is how long, James? How long does that go?
It's just over 2 hours.
Wow. And I watched every one of them. Amazing. And definitely monetized, was it? Maybe not. The next one that you did was Catherine Fitz, that used to be HUD secretary under Bush Daddy, something like that. And
right, Assistant Secretary of Housing. Yeah.
I've seen her before. Donna's asked trying to get her on after I saw your interview. We've met before at several different things. And she's kind of from the Republican Patriot America, I believe in the Constitution crowd, that we got to do it right and expose them for all of the money that they're losing, stealing, and ripping off. And the one thing that started off when day before 9/11, Donald Rumsfeld said, we're missing a couple trillion here, there. After a while, you got some real money. And on your show, Catherine was saying, it was really 3-point-something trillion, but who's counting, And then, of course, Building 7, paperwork, and it goes away. And the Pentagon, and it goes away. So now we're dealing with tens of trillions. And a lot of the things that she talked about, give me a summary on what you guys did the interview on, and we'll try and get this to a half hour and go really quick. But I have a bunch of questions, so I'll just rattle them off. Go ahead and give us a summary, would you please, James?
Okay, the first thing I want your listeners to do is to go back and listen to my interview with Dr. Mark Skidmore from last December, where we started talking about this continued talking about this missing trillions issue, and we talked about FASB 56, which is something I'm sure we'll get into in more detail. That was kind of the prequel to this conversation with Catherine Austin Fitz. They have both been working on this issue for years now. They have a site, missingmoney.solari.com, where they did things like take all of the different accounting statements from the DoD over the years that they could get their hands on and added it up to come to this missing $21 trillion number. Now, this, of course, is only the numbers that they could put together, given the things that were on the books and on the records. Interestingly, as they were compiling this information and starting to note it and keep track of it at missingmoney.solari.com, the DoD took the links to all of those things down from their site, all of those different reports that they'd compiled these numbers from. It wasn't until they started raising a stink about it that they were told, oh, no, it's now over at this URL. We're just cleaning up our website. So now it's over here. Anyway, missingmoney.solari.com
I've been through that before with the Arizona Department of, and finally you do Freedom of Information, and 7 o'clock at night I get a call from a deputy director. Oh, here it is, but you couldn't get to it from the site. You had to know. They knew I knew it was there. This is, I got the Mark Skidmore on Pentagon's Missing Trillions. Tell me about missing money and who these guys were. And they were prior to 9/11. They were building up to this, and 9/11 kind of wiped it all out.
Exactly
What
right.
was that?
Yep. If you look at 9/11 trillions, you'll note that the missing trillions at the DoD was not something that just was suddenly sprung up on September 10th, 2001. There was the big press conference, and they're starting the war on bureaucracy. You might ask, how could the chief of the Defense Department attack the Pentagon in front of his own people? He actually said on September 10th. Anyway, but actually that was an issue that had been going on for a couple of years by that point. The auditor had identified hundreds of billions of dollars in transactions that could not be accounted for back in 98. They were working on it in 99 to 2000. When Rumsfeld was being sworn in or being confirmed as defense secretary in 2001, they were asking him about this issue, and he said, I'm going to have to break bread with the comptroller, Dov Zakheim, to try to understand what's going on here and blah, blah, blah. So this was a well-known issue. It wasn't just the $2 trillion that was reported on September 10th. As Catherine notes, there was another trillion from the years before that, and then added on year after year after year, trillions upon trillions. Now, they can total up at least $21 trillion, but that is just a placeholder number. As even the Pentagon admits, these are placeholder transactions that they just do to make sure the books balance at the end of the year, but they're just plugging in numbers. These are plugs. And so the debunkers will say, well, look, this isn't actually $21 trillion that's missing. It's just that these systems don't talk to each other and they don't know what's on the other end of this transaction and blah, blah, blah. So it could be much less than that. Well, it could be theoretically, but it could be much more than that. It could be 50 trillion. It could be 100 trillion. Yeah. I mean, these books are total nonsense, which is kind of the core of this issue. But it got even worse in October of last year with the passage of FASB 56. The Federal Accounting Standards Advisory Board issued a Statement 56, which allows for the cooking of the books right there in front of the public. Specifically, the money shot is on page 7 of the PDF that you can link up from fasab.gov. The financial report of the U.S. government-wide financial report, must include the following in the government-wide summary of significant accounting policies. Accounting standards allow certain presentations and disclosures to be modified, if needed, to prevent the disclosure of classified information. Accordingly, modifications may have been made to certain presentations and disclosures. The government-wide financial report must not disclose specific interpretations of this statement that may have been applied. I.e., we are now putting it in law, in black and white, that every major federal agency and department can literally cook its books, can literally make stuff up in its books to present to the public. And not only that, because people will say, oh, classification, this is how black budgets work and things. No, not only that, but even the process by which this is done. Who gets to decide? Who gets to classify? Who knows what has been classified is classified. So the entire process is secret, which is a step further than anything that they've done before.
This is one thing I did go over it, and I'm showing the audience here the document here where it talks about related parties, and it basically goes like this. Standard 56 allowed in law, and they keep changing it, of course. It's like who got caught last time, and we'll make sure nobody gets arrested, that kind of deal. And what it is any entity of the government can do this, and any subcontractor that they do business with. They don't wind up on the line item, or they get put, and the rule was as long as the end net dollar amount matched, well, then it was okay. It didn't matter where you put it, so we can hide it. They're not doing that. All of a sudden we're missing trillions of dollars, and there's no accounting by law to find out where it went from whom. And this is if they can get away with it with $1 trillion, then another $2 trillion, and it's 3-point-something trillion. Well, hell, we'll just go for hundreds of trillions. What the hell, And that's what's happening. Now, one thing that came across as I was looking at this, it said, in particular, this includes entities like Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. If the government obtains rights to another entity, which would give them the sort of control that normally makes a disclosure entity, but gains those rights when it guarantees or pays debt for a privately owned entity, whose failure could have an adverse impact on the nation's economy, commerce, national security, etc. Those rights don't count for determining a reporting entity. Blah, blah, blah. Freddie and Fannie, when it was getting ready to go under, this is the experience that we had. Jim Rogers, the biker billionaire, used to come on. I produced for Charles Goyette, and he would come on every week. He would be around the world, Shanghai, Beijing, New York, whatever. And I call him and we get him all set up. He'd come on for a half hour, and say how we're all doomed. And I remember it was early 05, I think it was, that Freddie and Fannie stopped their quarterly reports. And Jim Rogers came on, he said, it's over. He goes, this is it. He goes, he goes, watch this. Now, by law, they're required to do these reports and so on. But under some, they got to, I'm going, how in the heck is Freddie and Fannie Mae able to get, now this is, what was it? Federally insured, some kind of home thing, or mortgage, whatever the heck it was. I can't remember now. But Freddie and Fannie Mac has a lot to do with real estate and so on. So I'm going, okay, they're not reporting. And then the bottom dropped out. Now, this shows me here how they did that or how they got away with it. So is there any entity of government not under this, and anyone they do business with, and anyone that makes these changes or line moves, you don't know who they are, why they did it, or anything, we're screwed.
Yeah, that's the long and short of it, is that you're screwed if you're looking for any sort of transparency from government, because this puts it in black and white that they can lie. And of course, any of their subcontractors that are involved in anything that's deemed to be national security sensitive and thus classified will be subject to this, so they won't get their names in the books, exactly as you say. And one of Catherine's key points is that this affects everything that relies on the full faith and credit of the U.S. government, which is not everything in the economy, but a good chunk of it. She talks about U.S. Treasury bills, bonds, and notes. Of course, the $21 trillion of public debt that everyone knows about. It's probably 22 by now, right? Or whatever it is. Other U.S. full faith and credit securities, like mortgage securities backed by secured U.S. insured or guaranteed loans, pools of unsecured U.S. guaranteed loans, money market funds, U.S. government-sponsored enterprises like Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, U.S. insured deposits, corporate contractor bonds and stocks, Fed member bank bonds, stocks and derivatives, U.S. primary dealer and exchange stabilization fund agent bonds, stocks and derivatives, U.S. state, local, and government municipal bonds and notes and municipal money market securities, corporations and financial institutions with fixed income investments, and on and on. All of this is riding on the full faith and credit of the U.S. government, which we now know is not worth the money that it's not printed on, right? This is total BS garbage. And so one of her points is, okay, I understand people don't want to, think of conspiracy terms. They don't want to get into the weeds of everything. But there are real money managers out there, retail investors, institutional investors. There are people managing portfolios of millions, sometimes billions of dollars, who have a fiduciary duty to safeguard those funds. And they are absolutely an abrogation of that duty if they do not take this information into account and hold the U.S. government to some sort of standard, whatever that means. But at any rate, that's the first ball that needs to get rolling, is there are many people whose lives and livelihoods depend on this information that we now know is being cooked. And they put it in their own words in black and white. We don't have to speculate. There's no conspiracy, anything. Just show them their own words. This is the base level of the scam that
she's been
open the greater scam.
She's been doing this through, of course, the Daddy Bush administration. And for whatever reason, she was motivated because she saw what was going on. And I guess she's a P&L guru. And she put in some practices to make it more transparent. And
exactly right. Yeah. And when she got in as assistant secretary, she's like, well, what are my duties? What am I obligated to do? Oh, I'm supposed to, we're supposed to balance the books. We're supposed to, wait, where are the books? What is our actual income? What is our revenue? What is our flow? Are we in that? And they're like, oh no, that's not the budget department. That's the accounting department. You're going to have to talk to the accountants. Well, can I talk to the accountants? No. You're not allowed. They're actually on loan from a different department, and you're not allowed to talk to them. And she had to pull strings to even get a look at the books. And then she was putting in systems in place, including some software, some proprietary software that was basically going to eliminate the ability that they had back at that time to use the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, as a type of candy store for black operations, which
because
is what
it has such an enormous budget.
Huge amounts of money that they were playing with, and just completely cooking the book. She saw it. She was putting systems in place to stop it. So of course she got out of there.
Well, she went. There's other people. They keep doing. They think we're going to got a big giant story coming out and 9/11. I mean, it was at the same time. It was like, man, we better hurry up and get on this. Catherine's a-coming, you know. Yeah, I encourage people to go and listen to the Catherine Austin Fitz interview, and it was I don't know, about 40 minutes or something like that, and it was well worth it. I listened to it twice. You know, once I was editing in the background, then before the show about an hour or two ago, I'm like, all right, and I started making notes. This is the one thing that she came out with, and I want to see if you can expand on this. I was making notes, and she was saying of the 20 whatever trillion billion dollars, there's 25 trillion in pension funds. Now they buy, because they're required by AAA, and it's got to be this percentage of whatever to buy U.S. Treasuries. Then it's gone. So the U.S. taxpayers are on the hook for this. We got to pay back the Treasuries, but the pension fund that was put in there, the money it kind of leaves, we're forced to buy into it. The government takes it. When it's gone and they go bankrupt, then the taxpayers have to pay it back. We get ripped off several times, and the people that are getting paid off and tarped and dollar buyback, we kind of too big to fail, is the very people that did it. I'm going, this is amazing. There is no fixing it. It is repudiation, abandonment, and do the Iceland, we got a different government. I mean, whatever. What say you?
It was put in place to fleece the people, and you're exactly right about that. And one of her essential points was that you're taking assets, what people are paying into these pension funds, which is assets, and through the magic of, we'll go to the U.S. government to get these treasury notes that are backed up with the full faith and credit of the U.S. government, and what they receive in return are liabilities. That is actually what they get as their guarantee. Don't worry, 20 years from now or 100 years from now or whatever it is, we'll get this back plus interest. Honest, the U.S. government says so. And that is the bottom level of the scam. And of course, one of the things that she revealed is back in the mid-90s when she was dealing with all of this, someone, I believe from CalPERS, one of the largest pension funds in the world. Yeah, in California, said, those have decided that this system isn't working anymore. They're sending the money out. They're taking the money out of the system. They're creating their own system. She at the time thought that they were talking about, we're investing in in emerging markets and we're developing overseas.
What did they do with the movie? Money.
Sorry?
What did they do with it? They buy gold? I mean,
for that, you're going to have to stay tuned for the second part of our conversation. But
you're cutting her off. She had more. You go, no. We're doing another one.
Because I know if you make a big 2-hour conversation, people are going to listen to the first half hour and think they got it. No. We're going to spread this out so people really get the full story.
Okay, now this is one thing I wanted to make sure we got in. When you watch the movie The Big Short, you could see how they went to the S&P and Moody's and so on. My brother-in-law is one of the big boys at Moody's, senior vice president, blah, 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 blah. And we had interesting conversations about this, but this is how it happened. You go to them and you say, rate my bond, whatever, and they go, AAA, AAA, AAA. Why did you do this AAA? Because if we didn't do it, they go to somebody else to do it. And if we don't do it for the government, which is what happened, S&P goes in, they drop the rating of the U.S., whatever the heck.
The Treasury.
Boom! He's gone, done. They made the message very clear. You are not to tell the truth on this stuff, so where do you go to get the truth?
Exactly right. So specifically in 2011, S&P downgraded the U.S. Treasury from AAA to AA+. And that, my friends, is a no-no. You do not say that the U.S. Treasury has anything other than the stellar top 100% best credit available in the universe, or you will be dealt with. And S&P was dealt with. Not only S&P, but their parent corporation, McGraw-Hill, got essentially railroaded, and eventually the guy who was in charge of S&P at the time got pushed out of his job. That is an interesting story that I think was kind of a footnote to our conversation, but I want to hone in on it. So I'm actually going to write an entire forecast.
Yeah, no, this is it. You saw it from the Big Short. I witnessed this. I went through this. I know how, of course that's how it happens. The one other thing that, of course, 9/11 kind of delayed this and pushed it out. And then if they did say anything, nobody was paying attention because whatever, And I remember her talking about the GATT Uruguay round. That's when I started in 88, the Omnibus Trade Competitiveness Act. It gets in 90. They're doing this Uruguay round. And that's when she was going, they decided to globalize. I was right in the middle of this stuff. And I'm looking forward to it. And I could see if there's something wrong. And they wrote that Omnibus Trade Competitiveness Act was the fascism. That was the international foreign policy kind of money siphoning, doing all piping leads to Goldman Sachs or something. And I couldn't understand it. I'm going, this is not what the hell. And that's what started me on this, because I could tell it was this Hydra, back there that was doing all. And of course, just the intuition was right. And she details how they did it and when it started.
Yeah.
Now, of course, it was going on before they were setting it up to do it, and then they get some kind of computers that they can actually start doing it. Then you want to upgrade the software. And we don't want to be that upgraded. We just need to be able to rip you off. So this is going to end. I mean, I know you got to go soon here. We pretty much covered a lot of the things I wanted to make sure that we did. And one thing she said, if you steal enough money, you can afford the bribe and corruption for covering it up. So to steal more money. So you can cover up a bigger, more money steal.
Hush up the people who are going to talk about us stealing the money. Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Or you just kill the people who won't shut up.
Oh, that won't happen.
Or something that happened on 9/11. And as she mentioned, as she said in that interview, if you're involved in some department or agency or big institution that's doing this kind of stuff, you don't want to be physically located in their offices, because that's where the office fires, let alone explosions, tend to happen. And it was at Murrah Building,
missile, plane, whatever. They just wind up getting, that was an interesting stat that she came out with. All of these accounting where it's accumulated, or they say they got it all in the investigation, and it's bombed, it's blown up. They can get like a twofer. They can get rid of all the evidence and get some other terrorist law so they can pass a bunch of stuff to steal more money.
Right. Yeah. This is why I always stress something like 9/11. People who want to reduce that down to what is the one reason? Why did that happen? Tell us the one reason the one person had for. No. Many people had different angles and agendas that they could push through with an event like that.
JFK, same kind of crap.
The point that I wanted to stress in that conversation was they can claim that some document was in WTC7. Oh, well, that was in there, so now it's gone. And of course, it doesn't matter if it was or wasn't. They destroy it and get rid of it, and they can just
they got copies.
Yeah, of course.
Where does this go? I'll let you in with this, man. It was awesome that you did that right after 9/11. Of course, Catherine Austin Fitts was like, I'm so glad you did your 9/11 whistleblower series. She was very heartened by that. So this ends not well. It's either going to be $1 trillion titanium coins or some crap like that, and they just inflate their way out, or it gets repudiated or whatever. But it's like I've been saying, it's the pensions. It's why do you rob banks? Because that's where the money is. Well, the pensions where the gazillions of dollars are, and I'm going, how do you think this is going to end?
Not well. Not well for anyone who's listening to this conversation, probably. Because specifically, I think people have it in their mindset that this system is designed to continue going on forever. It is not. It is designed to collapse at a certain point. I don't know if that exact point has been set in stone and it's going to happen on blah, 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 2021 or whatever. But it is going to collapse, and they know that. And that's why all of the infrastructure for the global banking architecture and the new world order is in place, because that is what is going to be the next system that they bring in. Once this system is wiped out, trust me, everyone at the bottom rung of the ladder will be completely wiped out and will be reliant and dependent on whatever the next system is that can promise them, don't worry, we'll take care of you. But now you have to be, in this.
I think this is why they don't like crypto. because it could immediately.
No, this is why they want to corrupt crypto.
Oh,
This is why
yeah, no. They want to have their own. I guarantee that.
Exactly.
But it's, to have any competing currency at all. And
they don't want anything truly outside of the system, of course.
Yeah, I don't know how this ends. I was very confident for 30 years almost, up until like 16, that I could kind of see up to 16 what was going to happen, and we get to the 16. Well, it came and went, and what happens now, I have no freaking idea. But I knew we were going to get to this point. Well, what happens now? It's up to you to be informed, to make sure you just enough to eat, enough to drink, where you go to the bathroom, you're not too hot, you're not too cold, you're not too wet. I mean, it's very simple, basic. Outlast them. You're not going to beat them. You just need to outlast them. They're going to be, and this is one thing this comes up. It just keeps coming as I'm seeing more articles about it, and we're publishing it on Freedom's Phoenix and so on about sociopathy. These sociopaths, because they can, we create these positions of power. They have no empathy. They don't. I rule you and take all your money because you let me. And they will because they can. It's no more complicated than that. We have to stop their can. And I don't know how something's going to end here. And I give you the final word, James. What should we get ready for?
Well, I mean, don't take anything for granted, especially in the economic or financial sphere, as you have known it for your, presumably your whole life, because this game that's being played, this version of this game has been going on for 70 years now, and everyone understands it's long in the tooth. It's time for a new system. And the only question is, whose new system on whose grounds? And unfortunately, the banking clique have the upper hand here. I do want to head off some of the cynicism of people out there that say, well, we already knew it's rigged, so what does it matter, the details of how they do it. I think the details are important because there is still time for people on the inside of this system to put the brakes on it. As you say, these systems of power and control are created to get the sociopaths in place who won't care about what they're doing. But there are still people inside this system that would not be working for it if they knew what it was they were doing. But they don't, because of the compartmentalization, because the way this is all spread out and difficult to access. Things like this, the report that they put out at the Solari
Is Catherine's life in danger? I haven't seen anybody else that has such a detailed understanding of what legislation was done, how they used it, and how they got away with it.
Well, you should listen to the Solari report. She talks from time to time about some of the things that have gone on, the kind of incredible shenanigans about computers and things disappearing and problems and difficulties getting reports out. They were releasing that report, getting it prepped on Sunday, September 9th, 2001. Oh, look, they're doing the press conference on Monday, September 10th to get ahead of the story, but nothing's going to stop this story from coming out. Oh, wait, what happened on Tuesday? So, things happen in this sphere.
Wag the dog. It's like you need to change the lead.
Yeah.
That's it.
Anyway.
James, thank you.
Stay tuned for part 2 is what I should say.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. How long before you're going to have her on and do the part 2?
We're going to be talking again next month.
Wow. Maybe I'll try and get her by then for my audience, but it's not going to be James Corbett because, it's James Corbett. Finally, a lot of things clicked in place because it's just some of the stuff that she was saying. And I've listened to her before, but always you bring it out, man. And I went and I go, there it is. Now I get it. This is James Corbett, thecorbettreport.com. Go be a Corbetteer, and you'll know what's going on. Peace, James. Thank you, man.
Take care.